Everybody, this is Rod, Boomer Guitar Sessions, and today we're talking about technique. Now, before we get started, I am often asked, where do I come up with many of my lesson content ideas? And the answer to this is through teaching and through coaching and all that. I do this at least 4 days a week. I teach classes, coaching clients, the Guitar Collective, various different sources, ensembles. These are problems that come up in my teaching. So I'm addressing issues that I see happening in real life. So with that said, what we're going to talk about today is picking. So it occurs to me that a lot of people that are coming up, has been brought to my attention, that they're learning their chords and they're learning their songs, and they learn their, like, let's say, their favorite artist. They learn to play the chord changes of their favorite artist. They don't always learn good technique and how to improve their technique. Now, first thing we should always do, I guess, when we first started playing it, is get our downstrokes happening. That's the first thing we always learn. What the problem is with a lot of people is that that's all they stick with, and you don't want to do that. You want to have options. You want to be able to play lots of different kinds of music, and lots of different technique is an ongoing thing. That's something that you want to. The more you know, the more things you're able to pull off, and the more fun you're going to have. And that is my opinion. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about different kinds of exercises that I would give my clients and students and such. The first we're going to talk about is what I call Huckleberry picking. When I say Huckleberry picking, it's simply 16th note picking. And so Huckleberry. Now, in things that you want to know about building technique, first thing you want to know, my advice is metronomes are the last thing that I would ever use. I would use drum machines. I would use loops. I would use things that make me want to practice. Drum machines make me want to practice. Loops make me want to practice even more because loops are in key. We have other instruments other than just drums. When I think of loops, I think of whole band kind of snippets that are looped for the next six minutes. So Huckleberry picking with a loop would sound something like this. And this is something I would, when I say Huckleberry, the other thing I'm doing when I Huckleberry pick a lot of the times, and probably most of the time, is I palm mute. And what palm muting is this. Want to keep your wrist easy. You don't want to stiffen up, because that's what leads to pain and damage and nerve damage and all that kind of business. But also it makes it harder to play. And the idea is not to be harder, to be easier. So the more I learn, the more I study, the more I have played, I realize that by trying to keep an easy wrist and not a stiff wrist, the better off I am. So Huckleberry picking, 16th notes, palm muted, and what I try to do is I try to put it into some sort of song form or exercise. Now you can do it a variety of different loops, and some of the loops that I make for my clients and my people in the Guitar Collective. They have access to these. So, and then the loops are long, 8 minutes long. And you get that, that is a warm-up. That is a warm-up. All right, so another exercise that I use, and this is a picking rudiment that I as I call it, it is called the Bonanza Rhythm. Now, if you've been part of my Quick Start Guitar book, this is in the Quick Start Guitar book. The Bonanza Rhythm is so. Okay, so that is the Bonanza Rhythm. Dum jigga dum. It sounds like a gallop, like a horse gallop. So, Bonanza Rhythm number 2. This is a second thing you can practice to boost up your picking technique. So if I sped it up, it would sound like this. Now, the other thing is, once I learn some of these things, then I want to pick songs that I can exercise this with. And the end goal is always to play music, not to play exercises. So, next thing we want to talk about. Is outside picking. When I say outside picking, what outside picking is like if I go down, up, like down on my E string, up on my A string. That is what some have labeled outside picking. That is something we want to practice. All right, so I have loops for that too. So that's going to help us. That's going to help us invariably down the road. And other things we do when we combine this with other techniques, going from one string to the next in our playing. All right. After outside picking, what we want to start focusing on is maybe raking. The raking motion, which turns into economy picking, which turns into sweep picking. So if I have a that motion makes all that relatively easy, because I'm not picking every note like down. I'm not treating that like alternate picking. So I'm using the downstroke. I'm using downstrokes. When I go from one string to the next, it's always 2 consecutive downstrokes. All right, and then when I practice that, what I do is I try to do it from one string to the next. Like I would do it like. Also, arpeggios are obviously So that is called raking. This is the motion that we use when we sweep pick. Okay, any 3 notes in a row that you want to do chord-wise, but also, and I want to emphasize that this can be used for scale work as well. All right. Last is tremolo picking. When I say tremolo picking, what I do is anyway, that is called tremolo picking, and a lot of times what I would do with any of this and all of this is I would practice these techniques with one another. So for something like with a backing track. So practicing with tremolo picking with your pentatonics, that's a thing. That's a thing we can all practice. So anyway, so that is just focusing on this left hand. The next video, what we're going to do is we're going to bring some right hand stuff into it. All right. So we have alternate picking and automatic picking. We have Huckleberry picking. We have the Bonanza Rhythm. We have outside picking. We have tremolo picking, and we have sweep picking. Okay, those are five different approaches that we can use in order to, and I always encourage you to practice with backing tracks. Okay, do it. Backing tracks are the way to go. In key, playing and practicing your stuff in key, you're killing many birds with one stone. So this is Rod, Boomer Guitar Sessions. I hope you got out of this technique, this little technique lesson and a little talk on technique, because people need to develop it. They need to work on their picking hand. That's a thing that has gotten lost, and we want to bring it back. So anyway, it's not hard. Just you got to think a little methodically about it. Okay? And sometimes when you're working on your picking, it's also good to go a little outside your comfort zone as far as tempos go, okay, and try to keep up with the tempo. That also pushes you along, and mistakes may be made, but eventually the studies have shown that that's another way to practice, and it's not always slow to faster. It's not always, that's not always not the only route. So anyway, that we could talk about that later. So this is Rod, Boomer Guitar Sessions. I will see you next time, and we'll talk about our left hand next time. See ya. Hi, this is Rod from Boomer Guitar Sessions. I personally wanted to thank you for being part of our community. If you like what we're doing here and you want to see more of it, please hit the like, subscribe, and share. And this helps me spread my musical messages to all over the world. Thank you, I appreciate you, and always remember, you can do this.